Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Healthy, Wealthy, and Smart podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Karen Litzy, owner of Karen Litzy Physical Therapy, located in Manhattan. And today we are going to be talking about concussions, but concussions from the first person. So joining me today to help us through this is Andrew Sendejo. He is a retired 12-year NFL vet. He is the founder and CEO of Braintree Nutrition, a pharmaceutical-grade brain health supplement line. He is a partner at Fourth and One Ventures, giving NFL athletes access to invest in early-stage companies. And he is an active real estate investor and developer through his real estate arm, Dejo Capital. Andrew, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great as well.
Awesome. So, like I said, today we're going to be talking about concussion, brain health from a first person perspective, you being the first person. So, I have spoken to other NFL players. Concussions seem pretty common. I have read some of the research. So, why don't you give the listeners a little bit more of a history as to your concussion history?
Yeah, so playing 12 years, obviously, a lot of repetitive TBIs, some larger than others. Uh, Probably three, maybe four complete knockouts, just completely laid on the field. And I can't even tell you how many kind of what they would call ringing your bells, where you're kind of out of it for a second. You kind of give yourself that buffer period of about 20 seconds walking back to the huddle. And then if you can kind of recalibrate, you're like, okay, I'm good to go. So I think, it's a part of it was a part of the game. As I was playing through my years, they started to get more strict on the concussion protocols, trying to have the independent neurologists on the sidelines, trying to increase the amount of testing you had to do to re-enter the game. So early in my career, I got, could get completely knocked out as long as you went into the locker room and passed their little concussion test. That was what I felt like was probably a very JV version of a
Mm-hmm.
DWI test. You could go back into the game if you felt good, if you felt like you could play. Uh, Towards the end of my career, the 2020, 2021, 2022 seasons. Basically, if you showed that you were kind of knocked out at all, even if you passed those tests, they wouldn't let you back in the game. So they
Mm-hmm.
started a lot more strict on that. And that was kind of how I got into what I'm doing now. But definitely something as you're young in the league that you're so hungry to play and you just want to be on the team that you kind of have that, like most young 20-year-olds of like, oh, I'll be fine. I'm invincible. I can keep going. I can play through this. And I think just even the way you're trained as a football player or an athlete to push through, to not complain, to be available, and to try to like, make the team, be on the team, stay on the team. Towards the end of my career, started taking it more serious as far as, if I felt anything, I would kind of pull myself out or say like, hey, I'm not feeling right. You start to realize through, the research that's been done and through things that have been occurring, in other former players, that it was something to take more serious. You kind of always naturally have that mentality of like, oh, I can like push through. But that's, once it comes to the brain, you should look at things differently versus pushing through an ankle injury or like your hamstring is sore, like, okay, you could literally rip your hamstring like off the bone and it's not going to affect your life later on the way a brain injury will. So it's just something that I think, the NFL is starting to try to be more strict on, even with the rule changes that they're doing to try to keep players safe. And they're really obviously as a defensive player, I didn't always like the rules because it was hard for me to play defense and to do my job at a high level. And I was a physical player. But they are trying to do what they can now to make it to where you basically can't use your head at all. It's just really hard to do because things are happening so fast. When you lean forward to tackle somebody, your head is
Right.
naturally the forward point of your body. And oftentimes, the way they would try to teach you to put your head out of it. You would actually expose the side of your head, which is where I would get all my concussions at. It was
Mm-hmm.
weirdly, anytime I tackled someone right with the front of my head, I never got a concussion ever. So if I could get clean on the shoulder, or if you just so happen to hit like right on the face mask, it was fine. But anything in the side of the head was always a problem area for sure. So a lot of
Yeah.
concussions, a lot of TBIs. My last play of my NFL career was actually me getting completely knocked out, a really bad, hit a guy, got knocked out, kind of mid-air, and then also did a nosedive right into the turf, which that alone can cause the concussion, just like hitting your head on the turf.
Sure.
Had a nice double whammy there. Really bad vertigo, which I'd never had in my life. Really bad vertigo for 2 weeks, and
Mm.
a lot of brain fog, a lot of like kind of focus memory issues. Kind of just didn't feel the same after that. And I think, my 12th year, I'd played much longer than I thought I was going to play. I'd gotten 2 concussions that year. And I think it was a combination of uh, my time was up, my health was up, and, I still had most of it preserved. So it was time to kind of go into the next chapter. So that's kind of the long-winded
Mm-hmm.
story. It's like concussions and kind of how I've had to deal with them.
And we're just talking NFL here. What about
Yeah.
your college career?
You know, it's hard to remember any real concussions in college.
Mm-hmm.
You know that in high school I for sure had one that I didn't even know the symptoms of concussions,
Back
and
then, of course not. Yeah.
no, I had no idea. And where I grew up and went to high school, it was Friday Night Lights, legitimately. Like we were
Where
living
did
Friday
where
night.
did where did you grow up?
I grew up right outside of San Antonio, so kind
Oh,
of out,
Texas. Yeah.
yeah, Texas high school football,
I
five.
grew up in Pennsylvania. Same.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, there was like no, I don't even know if concussions like existed. I don't even remember guys ever missing a
Right.
game for concussion, and I just
Right.
remember working out the next week and just getting these terrible headaches. And I was thinking like, dang, like, why does my head hurt so bad? I had no idea. College, I don't remember, but either way, just years of repetitive hits to the head.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, doesn't take
Mm-hmm.
a genius to kind of add that
Right.
up. And that's kind of a lot of head trauma throughout the years, a lot more than most people. And so now doing everything I can to, kind of restore that, mitigate any of the effects of what occurred earlier in my career.
Yeah, and I think you had mentioned something in your retelling of your experience with concussion and the symptoms afterwards. And I really want to hone in on a couple of those for the listeners so that they understand that it's more than just a headache or dizziness, but the difficulty concentrating, the brain fog, um, those are really big symptoms when it comes to concussion. And so you might have had, let's say you're someone who had suffered a concussion, or you think you've suffered a concussion, and you don't have the headaches anymore. That doesn't mean you're okay to go. It really is that difficulty concentrating, not being. So if you're a student, if you're in college, or and you can't concentrate when you're in class, it's kind of uncomfortable. Like you really don't want to go back onto the field until those symptoms are gone as well.
Yeah, it's almost like you really need to go from the priority symptoms of like, the headaches, the things that are actually causing the pain. And once those are checked off, now go through the other checklists to really
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you're good to go. But I've had friends that weren't playing sports, and kind of like we spoke about earlier before we went on the air is like, people, falling or hitting their head doing something. And they're like, man, I think I have a concussion. And I usually would just summarize it as, like, you have a concussion still or have those symptoms still if you just kind of don't feel right, like you're not
Mm-hmm.
really sharp, you might not have the same energy, the brain as the command center, when it gets affected and it's inflamed and it's in trauma, it's going to affect kind of everything else that goes with it. It's the mothership, it controls everything. And so I always tell people like, if you're just kind of feeling foggy, you just don't feel right, maybe you don't have energy or anything, like you definitely still have some of those symptoms, even just anything from balance to,
Mm-hmm.
like you mentioned, just like being able to hone in on something and concentrate. If you normally could read through some literature or anything, and you could actually go through it and find and recall it, if you can't do that, then you probably still have some of that lingering around. And so it's crucial to kind of make sure you alleviate all of those before you go back, because if you do happen to go get another concussion before your first one is resolved, now you're dealing with some very serious, traumatic brain injury that's going to have some really long-term effects.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you were alluding to before we went on the air, I told a story of a couple of years ago. It's Christmas Eve, and I concussed myself doing laundry. So, not like getting hit or tackling someone in the NFL, but I just stood up and hit my temple on the side of the laundry machine. And it took about like 20 some days for all of my symptoms to subside. And the headache you're right, the headache did go pretty quick, but there was still that concentration. There was still some like photosensitivity and things like that. So there's a lot of symptoms to concussion. So even if you're not in the NFL or you did something like I did, it's still a good idea to talk to a professional to make sure that you are taking care of the things that you can take care of.
Yeah, and I know we spoke about it's just not undermining the experience and the mechanism of the concussion. It really should be based on, if your symptoms are severe, then it's a severe concussion, regardless if it was doing laundry. And I will say doing laundry is quite a daunting task. So I wouldn't undermine that either, as far as, NFL and laundry, they're pretty close.
They're
I would
pretty
say as
close.
far, nobody likes to really do laundry. So I'll give it to
Yeah, it's a pretty close task. So in your time within the NFL, you sort of said things really changed quite a bit from when you started to when you exited out. So when it comes to concussion protocols within your time at the NFL, what did you see were the biggest changes?
I would say there's a more technology implemented towards the end. Early on, it was very Stone Age, in my opinion. Uh, it was sit in a dark room, don't read, don't get on your phone, no loud music, just rest and just kind of let it go away.
Mm-hmm.
Then it started to evolve to where, I started doing my own research. Obviously, we'll touch on Braintree later, but as far as getting correct nutrition and diet and supplementation, things that you can do there, and then going even further as far as hyperbaric chambers, um, you know, uh, float tanks, sensory deprivation, um, different. It's kind of different, and even some of the research that's coming out now, it was on adolescents. It hasn't been done on adults, but kind of treating the brain as a muscle. And when you injure a muscle, you don't just let it sit there. You rehab it and you use it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing some more research on concussion recovery and how, kind of treating the brain like a muscle, and slowly kind of working it and exercising again, that you should trying to generate blood flow to the brain. And so just started to see some of those towards the end. Luckily, the organization I was with at the end of my career, I think they were kind of on the up and up as far as being more knowledgeable on some of these things that you could
Mm-hmm.
do. I'm not sure that every team is like that. And, the brain injury and the concussion protocol, I think it's just a touchy subject, and it's a place where they have to tread lightly, to where they don't want to do too much and exacerbate the problem. And so I think they like to play it safe at times. They're like, let's just chill and relax and just let it, heal on its own. But I do agree that there's some more advanced ways to kind of expedite the healing process, and at least get that thing, getting it back to as close as good a shape as it was before.
Yeah, and I was really surprised at the large role that nutrition does play in concussion recovery. Um, Things like fish oil, eating like brightly colored foods for those antioxidants. So blueberries, pomegranates, raspberries, leafy greens, things like that. I was really, really surprised at what a large role nutrition plays within concussion recovery. I'm sure you felt the same. And when you're on an NFL team, we looking from the outside in think, well, they have the best of the best. money's no object kind of a thing. So did you have that like consult with like a registered dietitian, or maybe it was the neurologist or the trainer, and did they like, was that happening when you were in the NFL?
Not directly. I think that they would give you a little bit of a hint as far as diet, and they were like, hey, like if you're having trouble sleeping, like do not like drink any alcohol to try to help you sleep or stuff like that. Like
Right,
very
right.
weird
Yeah.
things. But I started to educate myself to where I already kind of knew. It was like, okay, I'm gonna smash some blueberries, blueberry fruit extract in pill form, try to get as much as I can from the anthocyanins, and same with the fish oils, magnesiums, all the
Mm-hmm.
different ingredients that we could take. I actually have a book over here on my coffee table about kind of this concussion protocol, and it goes through these different you know methods of using these modalities like hyperbaric chamber
Mm-hmm.
things, the nutrition side. And so I kind of did some of that on my own already, to kind of help myself. But I think it's different team to team. Some teams probably have someone who is like really on top of that, and maybe they've
Mm-hmm.
researched a lot. Most of the dietitians on the team are more sports performance based
Right.
by nature. I'm sure they still know a ton about all this when it comes to the brand, much more than we know, or I know for sure. But not necessarily directly kind of like, hey, these are the three things you need to do after this concussion. So I think that's part of the game too, is like even the people working with the players are starting to evolve in these different areas of, okay, what are the main issues that we're having? We have to prevent muscle strains, and we got to help with head injuries. Like those
Right.
are kind of two things that will keep you out of a game for sure. And
Right.
so I think that they're starting to, kind of go in that direction as well.
And a couple of years ago, I was with a colleague of mine from the UK, also a concussion specialist, and we were doing a talk in Monaco for the International Olympic Committee's injury in sport, prevention and injury in sport convention. And ours was on communication. And we used the example that you said earlier. So I'm going to call back to what you said earlier about getting your bell rung,
Mm.
and how, especially with concussions, oftentimes getting a hit on the head is comedic. You think about like the Three Stooges, they would bonk each other on the head, or you get your bell rung, or, it's always been this diagnosis has been downplayed, versus even an ankle sprain is oftentimes taken more seriously, right? So if you're the person, if you think you have had a concussion or that you've been concussed, um, what what do you do to communicate, or what did you do to communicate that to your team, to your coach, because in the NFL, from what sometimes it's like the health of the team, and I use health in quotation marks, can supersede the health of the individual, right? The goal of the team can supersede the health of the individual. So from a communication standpoint, what sort of things how did you communicate what you were feeling
Mhm.
to the people within the organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think like I spoke about earlier, as I got older, I took it more serious to where if I felt a little bit off, I kind of knew. And so my last season, before my really gruesome concussion, earlier in the year, I had kind of what we would say is like a minor concussion, because I wasn't completely knocked out, but I knew I had a hard hit, and I was kind of seeing what would happen in the next 10 seconds. And I was like, okay, I'm not right. So I just took a knee. Part of it too is that your teammates, I mean, we're with each other all the time, and we can see when the other one's tired, their body language, and so we can look at guys and kind of know like, man, that guy's not right. And so we'll kind of flag them down. But I would always tell guys like, hey, I get it. You're a young guy. You want to be out there. You want to be playing. But if you don't know what you're doing on the field because you're kind of out of it and you're a little loopy, you might give up the touchdown that loses the game. So like
Right.
that's actually really selfish to try to play through that injury just so you can stay out on the field. because you're actually just going to hurt the team. So if you're trying to do the team first thing of like, that also doesn't work. And so really you're helping yourself and your team by, kind of saying like, hey, I don't feel right. And so that particular instance, I know I kind of started walking back to the huddle and I was like, whoa, I don't feel right. So I just took a knee. You take a knee, you just grab one of the refs and you just point to your head and they'll basically know that you're
Right.
okay. So also if you take a knee, that's the way of saying like I'm injured. Like you don't have to lay on the ground, but you can just take a knee
Ah,
and you could grab one of the one of the officials and say like, hey, I'm injured if it was something else. But if you just say, hey, like my head, like they'll basically blow the whistle that you have an injured player. And especially with concussions now,
mhm.
rep that's gonna be like they're gonna take that as a very serious priority as far as in between plays that they'll stop the game and get your athletic trainers out there. But a lot of it is just kind of because there's so much cognitive demand during the game from play to play that if you aren't on firing on all cylinders because you got your bell rung, you'll know because you're like, wow, like I'm kind of lost right now. There's too much
Mhm.
going on too fast. And even if your teammates in between plays, they're like, hey, because after every play, we'll talk to each other. Hey, what happened over there? What happened over there? And if you're like, oh, I don't even remember, they're like, are you okay? Like, what's going on, man? And so there's just all these
Right.
kind of data points that occur every 30 to 40 seconds that if something happened, you kind of know, like, man, I'm not right. So it's really more of just being real with yourself and being like, do I need to come out of the game or like, am I not?
Mhm.
Um, so there's a lot of that goes on. We look out for each other. Try to look out for yourself as best you can.
Mhm.
Um, and if for whatever reason you do make it to the sideline after that series or whatnot, you could just go to the trainer and say like, hey, like that one play I got my bell wrong. Like I don't feel right. And they'll take you into the independent neurologist and whatnot. Because even they're aware as well. Like, well, we don't want to put a guy out there that's not playing at full speed and doesn't know what he's doing or, hurts himself and the team. So
Right.
they're not gonna necessarily throw you out there right away either. I think those times have definitely changed
Mhm.
within football to where they're like, oh, you'll be fine, just go out there and do it. So
Right, right. The old rub some dirt on it and go on out is way different now.
you can't rub dirt on your brain. It's just there's
Yeah,
not
not a thing. Doesn't work that way. And
one thing.
it's so interesting. I never really thought about the complexities of the plays. And so that when you're on the field, like you need to be able to be sharp in order to hit your mark, so to speak, right?
I mean, as soon as the play is over, the 40-second clock starts. But basically, the cadence you're going to have a play basically every 30 seconds, and as soon and the every series like every play the game is evolving, and so after that play, now it's on a whole new part of the field. So as far as all the inputs that are coming in, it's like okay,
Hmm.
now it's second down. They just subbed out these guys. They subbed in new guys. They're in this part of the field. They like to run these plays on this down. We're at this hour or it's there's 2 minutes left in the quarter. Like there's all these little data inputs that come in that like your brain is going like this, and then the offense starts to shift in motion and do all these things. So there's just all these cognitive inputs coming in, and you'll know if you're if you're not feeling right because you'll just be completely
Right.
a lot of people don't understand that there's a lot of that goes into it. There's a huge mental part of the game that people don't understand, and they kind of look at it as like pickup basketball, like, oh, we're just kind of out there, just I got that guy, you got that guy. And
Right, right.
there's the whole, I mean, we're in meetings like 75% of the week and like practicing like 25% of the week, like on the field. So a lot more, cognitive and mental parts of the game
Hmm.
than people realize.
And I think that's so important for younger players, certainly high school, college players to understand. And that just makes the when your bell gets rung even more important. So if I this conversation I think is so good for younger players and for parents of younger players to hear because it's not just I got my bell rung. It's okay, this is really important. Like let's take you. So if we're talking about like a high school or college player, the parents may be the guardians or whoever is in charge are going to be the people who really need to advocate for these players. And I think it's really important for the players and for the parents and the coaches to not just sort of sweep this kind of stuff under the rug or say, oh, you just got, you got the lights went out, you'll be fine. It's like, no, I think even these high school and college kids need to go to see a neurologist.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not something that you play through like other injuries. It needs to be treated as a whole separate type of injury. It's not an ankle, it's not a hamstring that you can, kind of power through and you'll be a little sore. It's a much different, more severe, if you have a little bit of scar tissue in your hamstring or your ankle later in life, okay, but when it comes to the brain, that's not something that you want to do. And so,
Right.
yeah, there is a big responsibility on the parent and ultimately the player too, because a lot of times you can't necessarily tell unless you give them some type of tests, some cognitive assessment that requires, memory and different things. And if they can't pass that, that they might be concussed. But other than that, you can lie your way through these other symptoms. You can say, "Oh, I feel great.
Mm,
I feel
right.
fine," or whatever. And so that's where the onus is on the player a lot of times too. And so that just takes a little bit of maturity throughout your time. And like, even like I said, in the NFL early on, I'm just trying to stay on the team, trying to be available, trying to make it. And, as I got older, I realized it wasn't really worth it to go through that. And so
Right.
they're part of that. I would say majority of it is on the player, but I think it's the coaches, the trainers, the parents, the guardians, whoever is, that, you actually need to, as a parent, I don't have kids playing football, but, I'd be watching kind of every single play and saying like, okay, ooh, that was a very like violent hit right there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
see, knowing the body language of your players, knowing the body language of your kids, of, you could tell like, the way they get up off after a hit. If a guy gets up super, I mean, I can watch NFL now and I can tell you as soon as a guy got hit, I'm like, that guy does not feel good right now. Or like, that was definitely probably a semi bell ring concussion type deal, just on
Mm-hmm.
the speed and the kind of the velocity of the play. It is a violent sport. It's just part of it. I always say if you don't want to play a violent sport, then you should, go play like tennis or something where you're not
Mm-hmm.
gonna. So it's part of it, but there are ways to still be safe about it. There's plenty of guys that have played football for their whole lives and are totally fine. And so
Yeah.
I would say that every guy that plays is going to have CTE. So I wouldn't let it like scare anybody away, but there's just ways that you can be smart about it.
Yeah. And you want to take things seriously.
Exactly. I think, that's just the part of the narrative that needed to change, is that it wasn't taken seriously. It was lumped into the same category as, like I talked about, some of these other
Yeah.
uh
Like orthopedic injuries.
yeah, it was like
Yeah.
lumped into that, and it was just, that's just not even remotely close to
Right.
what it is. So
Right. Yeah. No, 100%. And then so you get through your NFL career, you're in it for 12 years. Um, and then you say, okay, it's time. So what happens then? So you're obviously interested in concussion and post-concussion work since you've had a few. So tell us a little bit more about how you transitioned out and then what that looks like now.
yeah, I was always into, health, nutrition, supplementation, all those things. I was kind of the locker room nutritionist, if you will, as far as, supplementation and different deals like that. And so at the end of my career, and really, the last 4 years of my career, there weren't there weren't a lot of safe, transparent, kind of efficacious products out there that helped with these areas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I so me, my co-founder also went to Rice with me, also played in the NFL. His mom was actually our neurologist on our medical consulting team with Braintree. we were like, man, we need a product like this for ourselves. And so we launched Braintree Nutrition towards the end of my career, almost not even as like a business, but almost as like, hey, we need products for us and for our peers. Like we've been seeing this prolonged head trauma for years, and there's just nothing
Yeah.
the guys can take that is safe and efficacious and has ingredients that are backed by human clinical studies. And it started as kind of an investment. My co-founder was done playing, and so he kind of did a lot of the operations and things. I was still playing, and it turned into kind of kind of a hobby. I would come pop in on the off season and help a little bit. But it wasn't until probably my very last play when I was concussed. I got concussion on my very last play was done that it almost like kind of was a light bulb moment of like, hey, like this is my thing now. And so I did enjoy some of my free time post career for a little bit, obviously after like just grinding it out for 12 years. But it just kind of went into it full steam ahead. Went into Braintree Nutrition and working with my co-founder and our neurologist and some of our longtime NFL nutritionists. Just wanted to formulate a line of products that all work together to improve, enhance, preserve your cognitive function and brain health. And so I actually, a lot of guys when they transition out, they kind of have this dead time where they're like, well, what the hell do I do? Like, I don't really know.
Right. Right.
Me, I had kind of some of the other real estate stuff already going on, but I knew that wasn't really something you could really grind it out on. It wasn't something I was super passionate about. It was kind of a very passive thing. And it almost just kind of became my calling to go, right into Braintree. And so I think that actually helped a lot of my transition to where I had work to do and there was a lot of things that needed to get done, had to like
Hmm.
little things of like, we got to redo some of the branding, the labeling, the website, photography, graphic design. Like we were just talking about all these little
Yeah.
things. And so it almost made it to where that my transition was maybe a little more seamless than most because I already had this kind of calling in this business venture that I wanted to go into. It obviously was something kind of near and dear to my heart that had experience, something that I know I can help people with. I always say, in the NFL, I always had to be so selfish because in order to make it and stay in the league, everything that you're doing for sports has to come first. Like, oh, I can't do that because I have to train, or like I have to go get physical therapy, or like I have to go to this appointment. I
Right.
got to film. I got to be like, if you want to do it the right way and play it for a long time, you have to be selfish. And so I always kind of had this mantra of like, I got to take care of myself first before I can take care of others. And so, after football, it's like, okay, now is my time to make a product that can help others.
Hmm.
So, it's been like I said, it's been something that's been it's been challenging. It's been a journey. I've learned a lot. And so that transition has been, it's obviously still an adjustment, going to life after football, but it's finding something that you enjoy doing. It's something that's going to challenge you, something that's going to make you grow. And so that's what I think for me has been so beneficial is going into something like this, that it was kind of an area, going into a e-commerce consumer brand product like uh basically going right into the real world after being in football for so long. You're kind of new to all these things, a lot
Hmm.
of business jargon, a lot of jargon within your particular space. I and it's hilarious because in the NFL we don't use laptops. I never even had to type on a laptop. Like
What?
I never had to write emails. Like we would just watch
What?
film on iPads.
Oh
Like
my
we
gosh.
so it was like even I even like took like a typing class because like I like my typing had diminished so severely from college
Right. Right.
that I was like, man, I'm so inefficient at typing. So I would go online and do like little typing quizzes and tests and things like that. There's all these things you have to kind of relearn and retrain. So I think that's part of what I advise to guys when they get out of football. I'm like, man, just pick something you like to do. Like you already did something really cool. Like don't worry about your next chapter like being as eye-opening as the NFL. Like who cares? Like you already did something really cool. Like go into something you like to do that you have fun in that challenges you, and and hopefully one day it can make you some money. But like ultimately, it should just be about like doing something that you want to do at that point. And I always advise guys to start their own business. You know, in football, we've been so used to like on this very regimented schedule, like be at this meeting at this time, and you got to wear this in the game, you got to wear this to practice, and like you got to wear this when you travel, and there's all these kind of rules you have to follow, which is
Right.
fine, flexible, but you know, there's this like freedom of like having your own business that like you get to make the rules now, and there's a lot of, you know, things that translate very well from sports and football to business, and trying to use all those, trying to learn every day. And so the transition has, like most transitions from a big life, you know, a big life change of just kind of going with it and figuring it out, and you know, staying consistent, staying positive, all those other cliches.
Right. Right. But some things are cliche for a reason.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit more about Braintree Nutrition. Um, what what is the science behind it, and who is your target market? Is it just for people who've had concussions?
No, it's really for you know, I always like to say it's for everybody, but obviously it's for people who are health conscious and focused on, you know, being more proactive with their brain health and their overall longevity of life. And we wanted to make it easy for people to kind of understand these you know, we didn't want people to have to go out and research like what are some other products I can take to help improve my brain health. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
why we launched the SKUs of products that we have. So we have our nootropic and neuroprotection product that helps with memory, focus, longevity. We have our ultra strength probiotic product that helps with the gut brain connection.
Mm-hmm.
The gut is the second brain.
Yep.
Don't believe me? You know, go look up all the studies that are out there. We try to do it for you, but try to improve the gut brain axis. And then our other product is adaptogen, stress and anxiety relief to help reduce cortisol levels. And then we have our sleep aid product, which obviously sleep is the foundation of all, you know, brain health, mental health, physical health, all those.
Yep.
So have a sugar-free electrolyte with nootropics product to kind of give the brain and the body a boost. So that's, you know, hydration is another part of cognitive function. It's just a kind of a simple way of like, you can improve your mood and your focus and your energy levels just from hydrating properly. And so trying to always continue to roll out new products that can kind of alleviate these areas. So really just wanted to lay it out for people of like, hey, here are some products that you can take that kind of hit these foundational areas that can make you feel better, improve your cognitive function, improve your
Mm-hmm.
brain. And like, you know, to us, we always say brain health is mental health, because whenever you can't focus and you can't memorize things, you're forgetting where you left things, or forgetting meetings, or missing appointments, and you're stressed out, your cortisol levels are high, then it's affecting your sleep, which is now affecting your diet, which is now affecting your energy.
Everything.
It starts to create this whole just domino effect of problems.
Yeah.
You know, we just tried to make it to where it's like, hey, here's some things that can help. And like we spoke about earlier, I always tell people kind of the natural ways that you can, you know, alleviate these things as far as sleeping, eating better, exercising, sunlight, all the different deals. And if those don't work, then we try to give you products that use ingredients that have human clinical studies to support the science at the
Mm-hmm.
dosages that we use. You know, we were kind of more on the end of we feel like there's a lot of products out there that they try to just have the best margin and try to use these generic ingredients, and then try to kind of hijack the studies from other ingredients and things like that. And they're using kind of these proprietary blends. You don't know exactly what you're getting. And
Yeah.
we were kind of
Those
more.
proprietary blends are a little scary. Like I had a doctor on who is down in Alabama. She's a physician. Her husband's an anesthesiologist that works with Dr. Andrews, you know, big guy down in ortho guy in Alabama. And she really focuses her research was on exactly what you were just saying.
Yeah.
Sleep, nutrition, hydration. And what she was saying is like, if you don't have all of those pillars,
Yeah.
your biological age is so much older than your actual age.
Yeah.
It's like you need all that stuff. But she said, if something has a proprietary blend, X, like no, because you
It's
don't know what's in it.
Right. We wanted to make brain health products affordable and available to people, and to where even from where we grew up, we would be able to have a chance to afford these products. Whereas we feel like there's a lot of products out there now that they know that if it's about your brain, that people will probably pay a lot for it. And so they try to charge you a bunch of money for not efficacious ingredients at the right dosages, and you're kind of getting scammed. There's another, also changing the narrative on the fact that supplements are all just the Wild West and you can do all these different things. They're not FDA regulated and whatnot. Well, there are products that are like that out there that, are on Amazon and someone had it made in China and it gets drop shipped
Mm-hmm.
on and they never even saw it. But there's other companies like Braintree where we're manufactured right here in Austin, Texas, where we can go there. We can see everything from the sourcing of the ingredients, watching them, mix and blend everything. From packaging to distribution, we have eyes on every single process. It's a FDA, GMP, NSF for sport labs, so all the highest qualifications for manufacturing practices, and using pharmaceutical grade dosages. So there are companies out there like ourselves that do it correctly. There's some that don't, and so although the FDA does not check every single supplement, the FDA still has oversight over supplementation. If there's an ingredient out there that is not safe,
Mm-hmm.
they obviously pull that off the shelf. So it's not a complete, it's not completely the Wild West, but there are places that you can go to, like an Amazon, and get products that they never even saw the product once,
Sure.
like made. And so just trying to do our part to do right and try to help, like I said, it was originally made for us and our teammates. And I always tell people, I'm like, if y'all don't buy any of it, I will take all of it. Like
Uh-huh.
get taken regardless. I gave it to my mom, my future mother-in-law, all my family. So I'm a customer of my own products, and the more I've read all the research on it, even the more I believe in the
Mm-hmm.
product. Have been able to, kind of restore my own brain health and at least try to get it back to level after, just taking my own products to get my own brain health restored,
Right.
and better again. So like I said, a customer of my own
Customer of
product.
your own product. Yes. And uh, I think it's important to reiterate to the listeners, read the labels.
Yeah.
It's especially with with supplements, read the labels. Because like you said, some are made here, some are have more rigorous standards than others. So it's all, let's just say that.
Yeah.
Much more rigorous standards. Now, where can people find more information on Braintree Nutrition?
Yeah. You can go to braintreenutrition.com and you can find us on socials at Take Braintree. We have, all of our studies on the ingredients are there. You don't have to read them. We read them all for you so that you don't have to, but some people really like to. And I always advise, if you hear about an ingredient or a product or whatever, that should really just be a kind of a guidance for you to go research. If I hear some mega podcaster talk about something, I don't just immediately believe it right away. I'm going to go do my own
Right,
research. They start
right.
talking about a certain ingredient that's supposed to do this, 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 and this. Instead of just going and buying it right away, I'll go look up the studies myself. And whenever you know the science, and you know how the studies were conducted, and you know that they were legitimate, it actually, to me, it makes the purchase that much more justified for getting something that is going to improve. Like there
Right.
was actual studies done on it in humans.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes a huge difference. And if people want to follow you or find you, where can they find you?
You can find me on, I mean, I really don't do a lot of like all the Twitter and all the stuff, but I do have Instagram. So you
Uh-huh.
can Andrew.Sendejo. I'll occasionally, if that's where the funny like blooper outtakes of our content stuff from Braintree will be, that'll be like the funny stuff.
Uh-huh.
Braintree will have like all the sciencey kind of serious stuff. So it's a good mix of
A
both.
good mix of both. So follow both. And just so whichever platform you're listening on right now, we will have the links to all of that in the show notes. So one click will take you to Instagram and take you to Braintree Nutrition. All right. One last question, and it's a question I ask everyone. And that's knowing where you are now in your life and in your career, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self? So I was assuming you were at Rice University, like working it out.
Man, 20 years old at Rice. Yeah, working out, trying to pass my classes. This question is usually about for athletes of like what would you tell your younger athlete self? But it kind of translates to business too. And I always say is to play with more confidence. And when I was in high school, I was a two-star recruit. I never really, if you would have told me I would have gone to a Division I school on a full scholarship and be a starter for 4 years, if I would have known that in high school, I would have been like, man, I belong here. Like I'm the man. And then when I got to college, it was the same thing of like, man, do I belong out here with these guys? These guys are like full-blown adults. And then knowing like, I'm going to go on to play in the NFL. And even when I got to the NFL, being kind of on the bubble, not making the team, getting cut from several teams, bounced around, all that. And so it's like I had it in there all along, but I never really started to play well until I started to play with more confidence of like, hey, I belong here. And so just doing the same thing in the business world as well, trying to play the business world with confidence as well as like, I know I have a quality business. I know I have legitimate products that can help and can change people's lives. And so just doing all that kind of on the same level.
I think that's great advice. And like you said, it's applicable to anything, not just sports.
Right.
Um, totally. So, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on. Great conversation. Happy to have you on. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
And everyone, thanks for tuning in. Have a great couple of days and stay healthy, wealthy, and smart.